Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into adolescent identity development. It's a really fascinating area.
It absolutely is. We're drawing on quite a range of sources you've shared.
Yeah, and our mission really is to pull out the key insights for you, make sense of this crucial stage without, getting lost in academic jargon,
We'll be looking closely at James Marcia's ideas.
and how they connect back to Erik Erikson's concept of the identity crisis.
Right. It all comes down to that big question teenagers grapple with. Who am I?
Exactly, that intense self-examination.
Yeah, figuring out beliefs, values, where they're headed, and it's not something they do in a vacuum, is it?
No, not at all. The social world, peers, family, school, that's all massively influential.
Definitely.
So, okay, let's unpack this. It's not just thinking deep thoughts. It actually impacts choices, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Choices about school, friendships, even first thoughts about careers.
And the sources mention things like gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation being key parts of that picture, too.
Crucial parts. And if we zoom out a bit, you have Erik Erikson. He actually coined the term identity crisis.
Right, part of his broader theory of psychosocial development.
Exactly. He saw adolescence as this pivotal stage, identity cohesion versus role confusion, he called it.
A time of huge change. Physical growth, new social expectations.
And trying to square how they see themselves with how, they think others see them, it's complex.
And his own life story kind of fed into this, didn't it? Feeling like an outsider.
It seems so. That and his studies of different cultures, like the Yurok and Sioux, it all informed his thinking.
So what does this identity crisis actually look like? What are the signs?
Well, Erickson saw that some teens might withdraw or struggle to make choices about their future.
Uh-huh.
And interestingly, he talked about this idea of a negative identity,
Leaving.
meaning sometimes having any identity, even one society might see as bad, can feel better than having no identity at all, feeling completely lost.
That makes a strange kind of sense. So the goal is to navigate through this.
Yes, successfully working through it leads to a stronger sense of self, which sets you up better for adulthood. It's about finding that coherence.
And he linked this stage to the virtue of fidelity.
Right, but not just faithfulness in relationships, more like sincerity, genuineness, being true to your commitments.
So the crisis is almost necessary, a turning point for building that reliable self.
That's how Erikson framed it, a core conflict between finding identity and staying confused about your role. It's vital for avoiding insecurity later on.
He talked about identity having two sides, an internal feeling and...
Exactly, that internal feeling of being the same person over time, but also believing the world around you, your shared world, has some consistency too.
Okay, so Erikson lays the foundation. Then James Marcia comes along,
And he builds on it. He gets more specific about how teens navigate this.
focusing on exploration and commitment.
Yes. He used crisis for exploration, that active searching part, and then commitment making choices.
And based on whether someone is exploring or has committed, he proposed 4 identity statuses.
That's it. And importantly, they're not strict stages you have to go through in order, more like different states someone might be in.
Regarding things like career, religion, relationships.
Those big life areas, yeah.
Okay, let's walk through them. First up, identity diffusion.
Diffusion. This is characterized by a lack of both exploration and commitment.
So, not really looking, not deciding.
Pretty much. They haven't really explored options, haven't made commitments. It can look like aimlessness, sort of
A
drifting.
weak sense of purpose, maybe?
That's often part of it, yeah. And if it persists, it can cause difficulties later.
Okay. Next, identity foreclosure. That name kind of gives it away.
It does. Foreclosure is when a commitment has been made, but without any real exploration beforehand.
So, jumping to a conclusion.
Often, yeah. Or, more accurately, adopting an identity given to them maybe by parents or other authority figures.
Without questioning it or trying other things out.
Exactly. They conform. They haven't really had that personal crisis or exploration period.
But is that stable?
Well, it can seem stable, but it's built on shaky ground, personally speaking, if that external support or expectation disappears.
Then the crisis might hit later, like pulling out a security blanket.
That's a good analogy. It can definitely trigger a crisis down the line.
Okay, third status, identity moratorium. Moratorium suggests a pause, a holding pattern.
And that's a good way to think about it. This is someone actively exploring. They are in the crisis.
Trying things out, different roles, beliefs.
Yes, experimenting, asking questions. But crucially, they haven't made firm commitments yet.
So lots of exploration, not much commitment.
Right. It can be a period of anxiety, tension, lots of questions, few firm answers, often the longest status for many people.
Right, makes sense. And the final one, identity achievement. Sounds like the goal.
It often is seen that way. Achievement is when someone has gone through that exploration period.
The moratorium, perhaps.
Often, yes. They've explored, wrestled with options, and then made a conscious commitment.
Based on their own choices and values.
Exactly. It's an identity that's been personally chosen and feels authentic, but it's a process.
Not necessarily finished by age 18.
Definitely not always. It can take time, often extending well into young adulthood.
So it's not neat. Teens can move between these, like from diffusion towards moratorium.
Absolutely. Especially during high school and college. College is often a real catalyst.
Because you're exposed to so many new ideas, different people.
Right. It prompts those big questions, forces you to think about your own values, your goals.
Trying on different hats, so to speak.
Yeah, experimenting in different social settings before hopefully integrating it all into a coherent self-concept. That's the achievement part.
And peers are really important here, giving feedback.
Hugely important. They act like mirrors, reflecting back parts of your self-concept as you figure it out.
Now, one source mentioned social identity. How does it fit in?
Social identity is a really key piece of the puzzle. It's the part of your self-concept that comes from belonging to groups.
Like sports teams, clubs, religious groups.
Or broader categories like gender, ethnicity, your cultural background. We define ourselves partly by who we are similar to and different from.
Finding meaning in those group memberships.
Yes. And this is where social media comes in a big way today.
Ah, yes. The elephant in the room for modern adolescents.
It's unavoidable. It massively influences identity formation, both positively and negatively.
How so? The sources mentioned pressure to conform online.
Definitely. Pressure around appearance, opinions, what's cool, it shapes self-image intensely.
And the potential downsides seem pretty serious.
They can be. Things like spending excessive time online, constant comparison with others.
Those perfect curated lives we see.
Exactly. That can really impact mental health stress, dissatisfaction, even depression.
But there are upsides too.
For sure. Social media can be a space for self-expression, finding niche interests, building confidence, connecting with like-minded people.
Learning, sharing ideas.
Yeah, and some research hints it might even help those in diffusion or foreclosure.
Whew. By exposing them to new things.
Potentially, yes. Giving them a space to explore ideas, almost like a virtual moratorium, before maybe committing to something new.
But on the flip side.
On the flip side, you have cyberbullying, misinformation, the potential to worsen existing mental health issues. It's a double-edged sword.
And the way these platforms are designed to keep you hooked.
That design itself influences thoughts and emotions. That constant exposure, the comparisons.
The upward social comparisons you mentioned. Always seen people who seem better off.
Right, which can chip away at self-worth. Some studies link it to things like Facebook depression.
No, that probably affects different people differently.
Absolutely. Personality matters. Which platforms you use. It's not one size fits all, and we're still learning the long-term effects.
This ties into self-concept and self-esteem, right? They're related, but not the same.
Correct. Self-concept is more like the knowledge you have about yourself, your traits, abilities, roles.
What you think you're good at, what groups you belong to.
Exactly. And it gets more complex, more abstract in adolescence. Self-esteem is the overall evaluation.
How you feel about yourself, your sense of worth.
Yes. Your general satisfaction with who you are. Self-concept is about competence in different areas. Self-esteem is that overall feeling.
Does self-concept affect things like school performance?
It can. Believing you're capable in a subject might make you try harder. But it's complex, not always direct cause and effect.
And low self-concept can be linked to negative stuff.
Often associated with negative feelings, maybe risky behaviors. And then there's that adolescent egocentrism.
The imaginary audience, feeling like everyone's watching you.
Right. Which just ramps up the self-consciousness during this already intense time.
It's all part of figuring out your place. Now, one source brought up an interesting critique of Erikson.
Ah, yes. The idea that he might have overlooked a key virtue.
Justice. The argument being that developing a sense of fairness, social responsibility, is really central during adolescence.
It's a thought-provoking point. As teens navigate more complex social worlds, figuring out fairness and their role in the community is a huge part of finding themselves.
That's a really interesting addition. Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive, We've covered a lot.
We really have. From Erikson's identity crisis to Marcia's four statuses: diffusion, foreclosure, moratorium, achievement.
Understanding them not as rigid steps, but as states of exploration and commitment.
And weaving in how the social world, especially peers, and now, significantly, social media, shapes that whole journey.
Influencing self-concept, self-esteem, the whole package.
And remembering it's often not linear, it's dynamic, back and forth.
Which leaves us with a big question, especially thinking about social media's role.
Definitely. How is this constant connectivity, this curated online world, changing the process of identity formation?
Are the timelines shifting? Is the nature of achievement changing?
What are the long-term effects of building your sense of self in such a public, performative, and often comparison-driven space?
Lots to think about there. It's a constantly evolving landscape.
It really is. But having these frameworks, understanding Erikson and Marcia, gives you a valuable lens to view it through.